So, as people are arriving and settling in for a meditation, I would just like to take um, a moment now just to check in. And in the chat, if you care, just to jot down a word or two in relation to what's alive for you now. Like, how are you arriving? So, this is considered um, a check in, a beginning check in. And then it's always nice to have this type of marker after our practice today. And then you can check back in with yourself to see if anything's changed or shifted. So I'm going to take a quick look at the chat right now and just see how people are arriving. It's always helpful for me, and I think the other meditation teachers, just to know um, how the community, the sangha, and the individual members are doing. Thank you for those who are sharing. Mm, hmm So I'm just noting really a range of experiences or feelings, emotions, from feeling a little scattered to creative to grateful, concerned but grateful, thankful, a little restless, a little sleepy, tired, no expectations, unsettled, worried. Well, thank you. Thank you, everyone, for sharing. And hopefully, this meditation today will be nourishing and touching into whatever you may be feeling in this moment. So, the theme that I have prepared for today is exploring wise effort in our meditation practice and our life. And so, just arriving today is already a kind of effort, right? You chose to be here instead of 100 other things that you could be doing. So, really beginning with honoring that. And today, I'll be exploring with you wise effort in the Buddhist tradition. And thinking about effort, thinking about our energy in a way that is aligned with our deepest values without burning out. And this matters on the cushion, and it matters just as much in our relationships, in our work, and for all the ways that we're showing up today in this world with all the myriad things. And a basic understanding of wise effort is how we use our energy and when is it aligned to our values, and when is it out of alignment with our values, and what does it feel like in our body, and the impact of that in our lives. So it's also an exploration of your values. And just noting that right effort does come from the Eightfold Path as an element of enlightenment. So inviting you during today's meditation and dharma talk, there's going to be a time for you to reflect on the way you use your time and energy. And noticing times when you're putting a lot of effort into something and it's draining you, and times when you're putting a lot of effort into something and it's regenerating you. So being aware of this difference is a type of wisdom. So you can think of wise effort as using your energy in a way that aligns with your values, which, as I mentioned, welcomes a greater reflection on naming your values. Okay, so that's the intro. Now let's practice. And the modality for today's meditation is stopping and calming. So taking a posture that's comfortable for you for a seated meditation for approximately, let's say 25, 30 minutes. Settling into your posture, however that may be for you today. Lying down, seated or standing. And if you're seated, feeling your feet on the floor, grounding, or your sits bones on the cushion. Slowing down, arriving. Feeling the groundedness of the earth. Being aware of this sense of being held. Being supported. And knowing being in contact with the earth, you are the earth. Inhaling oxygen, exhaling carbon dioxide. The trees take this in and release oxygen. Settling into our practice today by just noticing this quality of connectedness, including with sangha. Everyone who showed up today. We never practice alone. Bringing your awareness in and down into the body. Just noticing the spine, the spinal column, and how the spine holds you up. Being upright as best as you can. Strong back supporting the open, soft front. Bringing your attention to the front of the body, to the lungs, expanding and contracting, to the heart beating naturally. Bringing your awareness to the collarbone, to one shoulder, to the next, relaxing. Awareness to the throat, relaxing. And from the throat to the face, relaxing the forehead, the cheeks, the eyes, resting in the eye sockets. Resting and calming. Perhaps feeling a quality of ease, non-rushing, allowing, receiving. Cultivating this quality of rest, of ease throughout the whole body. Every cell working in unison. Supporting less effort. Awareness of the body, the first foundation of mindfulness. This allowing the mind body to relax. nowhere else to be. Nowhere else to go. Concentrating the mind. Developing insight. Into the very conditions of our lives. And this is wisdom. If your mind is scattered, or if you're having a hard time focusing, settling in and down, you can always bring your attention to the breath. Bringing awareness to the breath. Relying on your own inner guidance of breathing in, following this in-breath to the very end, and breathing out, following this out-breath all the way through. Strong back, soft front. Breathing deeply in the body. Meeting the world with a sense of dignity, equanimity, and grounded in care. and just noticing what arises without effort, without judgment. Meeting whatever arises in our lives with dignity, with equanimity, with curiosity, and with care. As best as we can. And in the final moments of our practice today, we can gather the merit of this practice to nourish each thing and all realms, generating any metta and loving kindness to share with others and ourselves, radiating this quality of care and kindness throughout our whole body, throughout every cell, loving kindness and metta. Moving and vibrating through our body and radiating out into the world. Touching all beings without exception. May this benefit all beings. With a deep bow and appreciation for your practice. Thank you so much. Now bringing just some slight movement to your body. Coming back to the shared space. If you need to, just standing up, shifting your body, shaking things out. Whatever you need to do, always feel free. Standing, stretching, shaking, moving the body. And also just checking in with yourself. How are you doing in this moment? As I shift to a short talk for the day, as I mentioned, I'm going to be exploring wise effort. So doing whatever you need to do, the movement, I'll just get started for the talk. And beginning with the question of what is wise effort? So in the traditional teachings, there is right effort or wise effort. And many of you may recognize this as one element of the Eightfold Path. And it's often described as 4 types of movements, and I'll go through those. The first is not feeding unwholesome states that haven't arisen. The second is gently releasing these unwholesome states that have arisen. And the third is cultivating or encouraging these wholesome states that are already present. Okay, so the first, not feeding unwholesome states that haven't arisen. The second, gently releasing unwholesome states that have arisen. The third is encouraging these wholesome or positive states that haven't arisen. And then the fourth is nourishing wholesome states that are already present. So, said in another way, wise effort is how we shape our inner lives and our outer life. What we choose to focus on and what we choose not to focus on. I would say in modern life, these teachings, as you know, are 2,500 years old. And in modern life, when we hear effort, we might think of striving or straining, like I should be more mindful. I'm not doing enough, at work or at home, or into fixing and solving. I need to solve this problem. I need to fix this mess. And I know for me personally, when I'm in this kind of efforting, it can be exhausting. And it may come from fear, from my inner critic. I'm not doing enough. I need to push harder. I need to be more available. I need to do more things. And so, but through this practice of Buddhism, I practice in the Zen tradition, Soto Zen. There's this concept um, that really inspires me, and I think I mentioned it during the meditation. And it's like this effortless effort. And so, really finding almost like an equanimity, right? Not pushing too hard, but not collapsing. Engaged, but not overly driven by a gaining idea. And as I mentioned, thinking of the meditation that we just did, and some of the instructions, and it's also from Zen about being upright and finding a posture, that is balanced between efforting and being relaxed. Um, there may be this striving, if you will, to sit still, um, and choosing to be in this way of returning again and again to the breath and the posture in this moment. But at the same time, not being too rigid, right? Not forcing the breath or chasing a special experience, like every meditation has to be enlightening. Instead, we can choose to just sit and just notice things as they arise. One Zen teacher, Roshi Shunryu Suzuki, said, "The most important point is to find out what is the most important point." So just inviting you for a short moment in your own heart to reflect on these questions. What is most important to me in this life? What is most important to me in this life? and what truly matters beneath all the busyness and noise. This is touching into our values. And in Zen, this touches into our vows. Compassion, justice, being truthful, not harming, being present, love, all right. And this term, effortless effort, means that our practice and our activism, our parenting, our role as a colleague, friend, flows from these values and not from anxiety or fear, for example. So, on values and aligning our energy with what matters, if we say we value compassion, for example, but then we notice that our calendars are full of rushing and reacting to something, this may be out of alignment, right, with our values. And if we say we care about justice and find ourselves adjusting to unjust situations, we may actually be undermining the very justice we long for. And so sometimes I'm also thinking about our vows in Zen, like the Bodhisattva vows. Let me just go through those quickly. At Upaya, we have a verse sheet and the 4 Bodhisattva vows. I'll just read those to you. That creations are numberless. I vow to save them. Delusions are inexhaustible. I vow to transform them. Reality is boundless. I vow to perceive it. The awakened way is unsurpassable. I vow to embody it. These are chanted often in Zen circles and meditation. And one thing that you may notice about these vows, as I do, is that they're aspirational, right? Some might say impossible. Yet we say them and we vow anyway, not because we're necessarily going to achieve them or always achieve them in our lifetime, but because they aim our life energy in a particular direction. And our personal values, the ones that were coming up to you and in a reflection, are also like this, like a compass. And our daily effort is how we walk in this direction of our values. So in our daily lives, in our practice, we often oscillate between three kinds of effort. One, maybe over-efforting. This shows up in perfectionism, never enough, self-harsh, self-talk that's harsh. Over-efforting can also show up in activism, in advocacy. If I don't respond to every email, every campaign, every crisis, then I'm failing. Over-efforting also shows up in meditation. Like if my mind is wandering, I may not be doing this right. And then there's under-efforting, this sort of numbness, avoidance, doom scrolling. The problems are too big. Nothing I do matters. Going through the motions without heart. And then there's more of a balanced effort, this effortless effort, one that we can cultivate, steady, kind, sustainable. We show up. We might miss things, but then we can return without drama. So the three energies are around pushing, collapsing, and balance. And our meditation practice is really a beautiful laboratory for this. And you can ask yourselves during a meditation, right now, am I pushing? Am I collapsing? Striving? Could I soften by 5%, let's say, and still fully be here? And then noticing how we can bring this realization of effort and wise effort from our cushion out into the world. It could be while we're caregiving, organizing, solidarity work, or something else. And I know that many of us in the sangha, we care deeply about the world, the violence that we're seeing, the exploitation, racism, injustices. I feel this often in my own work addressing forced labor and the world of work and global supply chains. And the suffering is real, and the stakes are high. So it is easy, I would say, for our effort to become sort of desperate. If I rest, I'm abandoning people. I have to hold everything together. I have to fix this. And yet, from the Dharma perspective, how we work is also part of the outcome. And I love this quote I'm going to share from Thich Nhat Hanh. He says that the way we walk is the way we arrive. And sometimes I'll find myself sending loving kindness or metta out in front of me before I enter a meeting or a, some type of event. Like, may loving kindness go in front of me. The way we walk is the way we arrive. And so if we walk, let's say, this path of justice with burnout, with bitterness, then we're rehearsing those same energies in the world that we want to lessen. Like, we don't want to exacerbate the burnout or the bitterness. We really want to embody this wise effort. And it might look like slowing down a bit, but not really. I would say it's more about focusing on our energy, focusing our energy on what we really value. So choosing one or two areas of sustained engagement rather than scattering ourselves, spreading ourselves too thinly across everything. That's wise effort. Wise effort might also look like practicing deep listening. And in the social justice framework, this could be deep listening with the communities we're engaged in, the people most affected, instead of rushing to fix things. Deep listening. And then also just knowing our own boundaries so that our yes, when we do engage with our wise effort, that it can be wholehearted. Making room for joy, for community, for rest as part of the work and not as a guilty afterthought. I really like that. Making room for joy, community, for rest as part of the work. And knowing that it's not selfish, but it's strategic and compassionate. A burned out bodhisattva is really not that helpful. And so bringing this sense of wise effort into our daily lives, here are a few recommendations. So in meditation, wise effort is showing up for the sit, aligning your posture as best as you can, and returning kindly when the mind wanders. Not wise effort is beating ourselves up each time we wander off, we drift, or measuring every sit with questions like, was that a good one? Did I progress? Not wise effort. So wise effort only asks, did I come back? Even once, with even a little kindness. Wise effort in relationships might be putting down the phone and truly listening to someone for 2 minutes. 2 minutes. You can try that. Taking responsibility for any harm that we've caused without collapsing into shame. Wise effort might even be walking away from an argument just to cool down rather than escalating. And we can ask right now, is my energy expressing my values involving compassion? Is my energy expressing my values involving kindness? Or my fear and defensiveness? And so wise effort in work and activism or advocacy might be just doing one small specific task today that moves a project forward and letting that be enough. You know, showing up, doing something, but not feeling the burden of having to do everything. And joining a campaign or an advocacy effort in a role that matches your actual capacity and not any type of fantasy of being superhuman. Wise effort might be saying no to an invitation that would stretch you past your limits so that you can say a deeper yes to something that aligns with your values, that truly matters. And here, this wise effort feels like flow, that we're engaged, but we're not fighting ourselves every step of the way. So just as I wind up this Dharma talk, leave you with 3 small practices that you can try this week. The first is the pause. Anytime you notice stress rising in your body, overload, take one conscious breath and ask yourself, what value do I want to express right now? And what is one small step that reflects that? So the pause, one conscious breath. The second is a 3-question evening reflection. So before bed, you can ask, where did my effort today really express my values? So this also allows those core values to come to mind. And writing down those values. And for me, I've jotted down kindness, compassion, joy. And I think you can see some alignment with the Brahma Viharas there. So in this 3 questions, so the first one, where did my effort today really express my values? Where did I push too hard or collapse? And the third question, what's one gentle adjustment that I'd like to try tomorrow? So it's not a performance review, but just a gentle check-in with your own heart. And the third thing you can try is a 5% softening in practice. So the next time you sit or during meditation, or even in the middle of organizing a meeting, you can silently ask yourself, could I even soften like 5% and still be fully present? The shoulders drop a little, the jaw may loosen, but you're keeping your attention. And that 5% often shifts us from strain or stress into a wiser form of effort. So in closing, a quote from Zen Master Dogen. pretty famous quote from him where he says, "To study the self is to forget the self." And how can this be applied in this exploration of wise effort? I would say when we practice wise effort, when we align our energy with our deepest value, our deepest values, that tight little self often softens. And we're just doing what needs to be done with the heart that we have in this moment. Well, thank you for your kind attention. We've been sitting for an hour now, and it is time to hand it over to Geralyn for some Reiki and some movement. And thank you for sticking around. Over to you, Geralyn.
Thank you, Marina. What a beautiful talk. And so appropriate for Reiki practice. I love this. But we have been sitting a while, so this isn't really active movement. It's about being still and seated or lying down. So maybe just take a moment and just move. Just shake your shoulders or do some movement, stretch, get up off your seat. Just moving quite a little bit, taking a pause. While you're doing that, I'll tell you a little bit about Reiki before we start, in case you don't know about Reiki practice. So Reiki is a practice that came out of Japan over 100 years ago. Interestingly, but not surprisingly, the person who introduced Reiki was a Tendai Buddhist, and his name was Mikao Seisui. And he discovered this practice after a 21-day retreat on the top of a sacred mountain. So in Reiki practice, we use light, still touch on the body to invite the body to relax, to relieve stress, to open our system to our own capacity to heal within, and to find a state of balance, which is truly our natural state. And it goes so beautifully with the talk about wise effort, because and efforting and letting go of efforting, because in Reiki self-practice, we talk about the practice is the act of doing nothing. In Reiki practice, we do nothing. We place our hands, we're aware, and then we let everything go. Most people come to Reiki when they receive a session from someone, a practitioner, lying on a treatment table, fully clothed. But what we're doing is self-practice, which is so beautiful and the foundation of all Reiki practice. You become your own practitioner, and it's available to you anywhere, anytime, any place, as long as you have your hands, even one hand. So simple. So if you would like, when we do this practice, you might want to put me on speaker view if you want to see what I'm doing. Not like I like to look at myself, but you can see a little better what we're doing. So what we'll do today is a shortened practice, 5 simple hand positions, and then in the end, we'll rest. It's a very flexible practice, very easy to use. The only thing that is wrong in Reiki is if you cause discomfort to yourself. So if any of these positions feel uncomfortable or strained, simply move, change to another position or rest, okay? So very simple. So what we're going to do, we're going to place our hands, and you want to try it with me, and then we'll practice. Crown of the head, one hand in front of the other. And again, this is a light and still touch. And we're going to place our hands over our faces. So our fingertips are at the upper forehead, and our hands rest softly on the face. The third position will be the upper chest or the heart space. We place our hands one across from the other on the heart space. In the fourth position, I'm going to move my screen. We're going to place our hands on our bellies. So one across from the other on the belly, just inviting the belly to soften. And then we're going to rest. So we can place our hands by our side or in our lap, but palms should be facing upward in our lap. Because when we rest, we're letting any subtle changes that might take place settle in. So let's practice together. And don't worry about remembering anything. I will describe each position, and you can look at me on the screen if you want to open your eyes. But let's start by settling back into the chair, taking a couple of deep, intentional breaths. And at your own pace, one or two more deep breaths in and out. And then inviting you to close your eyes if that's comfortable. Letting your breath return to its natural breathing rhythm. And now let's place our hands on the crown of our head. One hand is in front of the other. And again, this is light, still touch. Once your hands are in place, there is nothing to do. Reiki is the practice of doing nothing. Simply placing our hands, gently aware of the experience, letting go of expectations, letting go of judgments, simply curious about the experience. Aware of our body resting. So now let's place our hands over our faces. Our fingertips are at the upper forehead or hairline. Hands rest softly on the face. Inviting our eyes to soften. All the little muscles around our eyes softening. Our face softening to our touch. Resting body, mind, and heart, moment to moment. So now placing our hands on the upper chest, the heart space, one hand across from the other. Gently aware of any subtle sensations that might arise, pulsations or tingling, vibrations, warmth or coolness, or perhaps nothing in particular. It's all okay. All as it needs to be in this moment. So now let's place our hands on our bellies, one hand across from the other on the belly. When we place our hands on our body in Reiki practice, we're encouraging our entire system to return to its natural state of balance. Body, mind, heart, in balance. So now placing your hands comfortably away from your body, or if you place them in your lap, palms should be faced upward, and continuing to rest, keeping your eyes closed and savoring the silence, the stillness, savoring your practice. And gently aware of any subtle changes that might have taken place and allowing them to settle in to your entire system. So now just slowly and gently come back into the Zoom space and open your eyes and return to our beautiful sangha. Thank you for your practice.